Hello and welcome to today's Storytelling Saturday. I'm Michael Gracia, and I've got a really fun show today. Um, as you know, I've taught storytelling for God knows how many years. I've been working in comics since '97. So I've been doing a lot of storytelling my basically my entire career. Um, and I wanted to talk about a storytelling method today that's always interested me. It is the Marvel method, and I got a guest on because we're going to demonstrate it. But before I bring on my guest, I just want to say I know last week I started doing the reviews for comics and a webcomic spotlight, but I'm going to put that off today because I don't want to turn this into a very long show today. So next week, I'm going to devote the entire day, the entire stream, to reviewing comics, to showing off web comics that you guys should be checking out. So that's going to be all next week. But today, I got J.M. DeSantis, who's a writer and a publisher. Let's bring him on and let's have a little chat with him before we get to our demo. Hello.
Hey, hello. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, it's it'll be interesting. Full disclosure, I've never worked for Marvel and never done the Marvel method, so this is going to be. But I know of it, So
I will say this: I've never worked for Marvel. I've read a lot about it. I have attempted it in the past with a friend of mine. I've kind of done it myself where I just kind of plotted out some comics and then later I go back and I write the story. But one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on is because I've never worked with you. So I didn't want a comic. I didn't want to create with someone that I was familiar with the way they work. I wanted just to do this from scratch there. Also, I know you're not a big superhero fan in the sense of writing superheroes, and most of my friends would be a go-to superhero story. So I thought it'd be fun to maybe do something non-superhero if that's what you want. If you want to do a superhero, I'm totally cool with it.
I don't even read them. So yeah.
But before we get into the demo, for those who don't know about you, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about what you do, some of the comics you've worked on.
Okay, yeah. So you covered all of it, except I'm an artist too. But
yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm getting more of the writer credit. It's funny you say it because ever since, and I've been telling this to like some of my family members, I've always wanted to be known more as a writer.
Yeah.
Right. And then I put out this novella 2 years ago, Robert Phillips, which is a Lovecraftian kind of horror novel. Although, I mean, it's Lovecraftish. Anyway, yeah. Ever since I did that, now it's like, oh, JM's a writer, like people, and it's fine. I would much rather be known for the writing than the art because I've heard you talk about it on the show. Like, your art is kind of like an extension of your storytelling. And I feel the same way about it. So yes, I am. I'll talk about Chadiana in a second. I am also a publisher. Yes, I'm wearing my shirt for Dark Fire Press. That's my publishing company, which is right now me. Now I'm forgetting names. Luis Cruz, Anibal Arroyo, and George Medina. George and Anibal used to be part of Moss Media.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then, so I mean, I'm publishing. I have a few other guys that I'm going to be signing on. Some of them have contracts, and I'm just waiting for the work. But yeah, and then slowly growing that. It's all print on demand, but we're in Barnes and Noble site and Amazon and everything, so it's working out okay. And then the main thing, which I'm finally after a couple of years, I'm getting back to is Chadiana. Okay, nice. That's not my art. That's KJ Murphy. I don't know if you know him.
I know KJ. Yes.
Yeah, he just put out his Road to Valhalla comic. Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So I've done. I did the art on the first story, and then I have old student of mine, sort of. Dana Sanguir did the art on the second one.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to give you the full screen so we can see the artwork better.
Oh, yeah. So, that's Dana's art there.
Very nice.
really, yeah, she's a young artist, not too much experience, but she's so talented. Um, she really does good work. And then I have Jackie Musto, who does a web comic actually, K and P, Kay and P, just the letter P.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll flip back to my artwork here, right? Yeah, so there's 3 stories in this one. Chadiana is, as it took me forever to say on the last time you had me on for an interview, it's a dark fantasy. Yeah, it's a dark fantasy comic. It's based. The cultures are based on India and the Middle East and Persia and such. It's not historical though, so the cultures don't actually exist. The best way I can describe it to people is think of like Middle Earth or The Witcher, but instead it's filtered through these other cultures instead of like European, right?
Okay.
And Chadiana is the main character; she's the title character, female warrior. So yeah, they're just. It's going to be 5 issues. I mean, that's not the whole series, but I'm starting with that. They're all standalones.
Okay.
The next 3 issues, I'm going to take one. I mean, I'm writing the whole story, but I'm going to do the art for one. Dana's going to do the art for another. Jackie's going to do art for, actually, Jackie's before Dana in the timeline of how I got it going. And then we'll, rejoin for a 3-story issue for the final one. Yeah.
Nice.
So it should all be this year. Chadiana Rekindled, which is the first one, will be out. Next month. It should be next month because Comixology has accepted it. Kablam has the files for putting it up on Indie Planet. So, but I don't have 100% control over my release dates. So, if you sign up for my newsletter or Darkfire Presses, you will know when it's out.
And how do we find your newsletter? How do we sign up?
My newsletter is on my website, jmdesantis.com. Okay. You can also get all my socials there. And Darkfire Presses newsletter, same thing. And all the socials for them is at darkfirepress.com. I have them laid out the same, so you can they're like top of the right side sidebar. You can get all the socials for both. And both me and Darkfire Press are on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you want to like it.
All right. I just want to, there it is, darkfirepress.com, just so you guys can go to that. And JM DeSantis, I'll put up at jmdesantis.com in a bit. So just for people, how long have you been doing this for?
I mean, I want to say since 2007, but the beginnings of careers are strange things. I put out a memoir a couple of years ago too, where I talked about the first 10 years of actually it was called JM DeSantis, the first 10 years, but yeah, so since 2007, but you get your weird ups and downs. It's funny you're mentioning it because I felt like things were really going to take off in 2009 with all the work I was doing for people. And then, it was the weirdest thing. Like everything dried up all at once and nobody's fault. Some places closed. Some people just, moved on to other things. It was interesting time. But so since 2007, so what is that, 13 years?
Wow.
Yeah. But Chadiana has been since 2012, although it's been a slow and spotty publication. Although with this new series, I want to just keep things rolling now. So no stops on that. As long as I have the money and the time to keep hiring Jackie and Dana to help me out on it, we'll be good. And anybody, I'll probably hire other artists too sometimes.
All right.
Yeah,
that's great. So, and while we're working on this stuff, we can talk more about what's going on with your work, what you're doing, what you're releasing. But as we both mentioned, we've never worked for Marvel.
Nope.
You've been interested kind of in the Marvel method. All right. Let me ask you, what do you know about the Marvel method?
So from what I understand,
Mm-hmm.
there would be kind of like, I don't want to say a synopsis, but the way I've always heard it is, um, the writer would give like paragraphs of what's going to happen on a page,
Mm-hmm.
and I I don't know if the original method included dialogue at that point. I might be confusing this with EC Comics because I know they used to write their dialogue in after the art was in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm pretty sure like it was just kind of like almost like a synopsis. It wasn't like, a couple of paragraphs, maybe not even, of the story, then hand it off to the artist. The artist does all the work and then comes back and then they fix up dialogue or add in things or whatever.
And that's basically from the way I learned it too. I've heard lots of different stories. It's credited to Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and even Steve Ditko being able to turn out, specifically Lee and Kirby, because Kirby basically did all their books for such a long time. Was doing so many stories, and it was a way for them to kind of work fast together. I've heard stories where dialogue was part of it. I've heard stories where dialogue wasn't there, where it was synopsis. I've heard stories where, I'm not out to knock anyone because I wasn't there. I don't know. I've even heard stories where Stan wasn't even the originator. It was the artists of Kirby and Ditko to be able to put out more work, and they were plotting out their stories, and then Stan would go in and add the dialogue.
Right.
I don't know the difference. I also read an article somewhere that the reason they never wrote dialogue as artists, even though they plotted the stories, was because then they would have had to be paid as writers. So I don't
Yeah.
know what's true. But from what I understand, the Marvel method always starts with some kind of plot, and the artist takes it and says, "Okay, we're gonna." Well, they'll also know you have to tell this story in, say, 10 pages, whatever it is, and here's the story you got to do, and it's up to the artist to create it, and then it's given to the writer to fill in. And that's how I was told. That's how I kind of learned it. And when I first started making comics, like comic book style, not strips, but comic books, I would tend to kind of have a rough idea, and I was really just focusing on my storytelling with imagery, and
Mhm.
then I'd go back and add dialogue to see if it happened. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just remembering. I guess I did do a version of this. I'm forgetting because I had a professor at Pratt, Floyd Hughes. He did work for Marvel for a while, although I don't know that I can credit him with saying that this was the Marvel method. But he had told me to just write out a synopsis. So basically, what I did was, yeah, I wrote out there was a graphic novel I did in college called The Eye of King, and I still would like to get back to that. Another dark fantasy thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a one shot though, but I just like the concepts for it. Anyway, yeah, like I had written out I don't remember if it was 5 pages, 10 pages synopsis of the entire 72-page arc.
Mm-hmm.
And only wrote in really important dialogue. It was basically like a narrative structure with really important dialogue. And then I just went right from that into kind of visualizing where all the breaks would be. And I mean, it wasn't the most efficient method. I did get all 72 pages drawn, which was
Wow.
not to throw anybody under the bus. It was more than a lot of my other graduating class could say for their own books. But yeah, like I didn't get to dialogue. Like getting the 72 pages done in a year was a big accomplishment.
I could imagine. I don't think I've ever drawn 72 in a year.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it wasn't traditional comic style. I was doing like all pencils, but it was like gradients and shading and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget that was one full college year, which is from September to May, and I had to have it, and I got it done before then, but I also had to write the thing, which took a couple of months. I don't know if I did breakdowns for that. No, I must have. I can't imagine I didn't do something, but they must have been extremely rough. Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty much from a, getting to the point of the show, it was pretty much from like a synopsis to, pages. There wasn't much in between. But yeah, I don't write like that anymore. I've since gone to, the only way I can describe it is maybe the DC or the Dark Horse method, where I write out panel for panel, so
that's how I tend to work. But when I when I'm working on my own stuff, I'm obviously penciling, inking, coloring, lettering. I'm doing the whole thing myself. Very rare do I give someone else part of that job, and I tend to rewrite while I'm doing dialogue at the end. I'm always changing dialogue. But I write very similar to how you were just, I do it that way. I'm panel to panel, here's the dialogue. Once in a while, not so much, but it's very rare that I would follow a method where I'm just like, okay, here's the idea, I'm going to just start drawing it, then I'll go back in and do the dialogue. I just don't have that structure in me. Right. At least not anymore. I need the structure of, here's your outline, this is what you need to follow.
Right. Well, it's a funny thing you mentioned that. I have found I'm more and more like that. During the early times of my career and even pre-career, like I wrote a whole novel in college, like 180,000 words. I recently, it was about a year ago, I finally kind of estimated, because I handwrite everything first. So it's like, for point of reference, Moby Dick is about 180,000 words. But I wrote that in like 2.5 years, and I pantsed the whole thing, which is, for anybody that doesn't know, it's just, you don't write out anything in the beginning as a writer, you just go right through. And I thought that was going to be my method, but I have found, planning, I started doing synopsises, and now I just do full outlines, like bullet points of everything before I go, whether it's comics or a prose book. I just find that, I don't know if it's that my mind is too scattered, or I'm such a type A personality that I'm with you. Like, I need a structure. Yeah. I can deviate from it once I get to, like, I've even changed panel layouts or added or chopped things when I've needed to. Sorry, my eye just caught your Lord of the Rings poster in the back.
Oh, sorry. It's okay.
I love that image. Speaking of Pratt, I used to see that all the time, that exact image, when I was on the subway. But yeah.
That is I'm sorry to interrupt. That's my favorite poster from the movies. Like that one.
I don't know if I have that one. I have the Two Towers one, and I definitely I have the Aragorn Return of the King one. But yeah, that's I remember, so I'm going to get sidetracked. This is what happens.
This is what happens with us. It's okay.
I'm such a Tolkien fan, like I love, actually, Chadiana, like a lot of this has elements of that, like I doing invented languages for it and stuff. But anyway, like I only saw the cartoons, the Hobbit one and the Return of the King one when I was a kid. It wasn't until I was older that I started reading it. And actually, I was reading The Lord of the Rings when the films were announced, and that was my first year in college. So
wow.
Which was also the year of September 11th. It was 2001 was when I started. So
jeez,
it was an interesting time.
Yeah.
I remember, I'm sorry, one other thing. I remember they were wondering if they were going to change the name of the second movie, because like the Two Towers, and Peter Jackson was like, no, that's the name of this, like not changing.
You know what? I got to be honest, I didn't even think of that or even remember. Like, wow.
Yeah. Also, I'm sorry, one other little gem.
It's okay. I'm
I
going to just share
remember
the
like
screen in the meantime.
graffiti on the subway would say, and pardon, I know, not everybody likes to get political, but there was always graffiti that was saying, Frodo has failed, Bush has the ring, around that time too. Yeah. So. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure we can talk Tolkien for a while. I mean, we're both big fans.
We should have an episode,
I would love an episode. We can just talk Tolkien. I have,
Actually, what you should see. Of course, I don't know him, and I know you don't either. But we should see if we could get Stephen Colbert on. He's a huge.
Oh, I know nothing compared to him.
Either do I, and I've read so much.
I would just be like, tell me about Tolkien. Like, what do you want to know? Just start at the beginning. He'll be like, he was born this day, but he would go through the whole life. But that would be, honestly, if I could, he was somebody I would love to have on to talk Tolkien. In the meantime, I just want to.
He might do it. He rarely gets the opportunity. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'll have to figure out how to reach out to him. Maybe send him a Twitter if he's on Twitter, a little tweet or something.
Stranger things have happened.
Anyway, so just so you guys at home know what I got set up here, I'm in Photoshop, and this is an 11 by 17 document, so that's standard comic book drawing size. The blue border I have here is set to 10 by 15, which is the actual drawing size. So 11 by 17 is paper, 10 by 15 is drawing. I also have a gray layer I made. I use this when I color. This is my basic template I set up, and the gray is there so I know I didn't miss a spot. And I can go between gray and white depending on the colors I'm using. I have no panels actually set up because I have no clue what I'm doing. Usually I will border out let me get my rulers out. I will use a template, and I will set up here. So if I make the 0, 0, and I come to the middle, so that would be 5, and down to what is? Oh, I forgot 11, 15. So 7.5 should be the middle. So now I always know where my middle is. I also will, I sometimes will, and I don't know the rows that I'm using, how many columns and rows I'm using, but usually I will border out every 5. So at 5 and 10, so I have an even 3 to work with. And then I kind of create everything off there. But what I want to do today, and I'm going to move I just like to have the middle up for now. Whoops, sorry. Just get rid of that. What I like to do today is figure out, and I want you to be the writer. I'll be the artist. And I want to come up with a story. Now, here's the way I want to work this using the Marvel method. I want you to plot out the story. You can tell me the characters, okay? I'm going to design the characters in my way. I'm going to lay out the roughs, and we probably won't get a finished comic just in time it needs to, but I was thinking just doing 1 page. So could you do a 1-page story for me where you plot something out?
It's been so long since I did like a 1-page story.
Well, if you want to start on something and...
Right. Well, let's... I don't know. I remember in like... we didn't discuss this beforehand.
No, and that's why I didn't want to, because I didn't want any ideas coming around in our heads. I wanted us to do this off the top of our heads.
Right, but I did just think of like a general idea so that I wouldn't be stuck.
Okay.
No. I remember from your last, it was only this morning, I was like, God, what could I do? And then I remember from your one of your Saturday storytelling Saturdays, you mentioned caveman type of character. So let's go. I mean, for anyone that wants some advice, less characters you have, the better when you're trying to tell a smaller story. All right. Yes. Now, I Usually when I do a shorter piece, I don't have a lot of dialogue unless it's necessary. Of course, there's sound effects and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking caveman. He's cold, kind of the whole starting a fire thing, but maybe like accidentally. Let's not go with the lightning thing though. Trying to think. Good question. All right. Caveman sitting on a cliff. Windy, cold. Trying to get warm to keep warm. See, what I was thinking was somehow he accidentally starts a fire.
Okay.
And then you just kind of have this build from there.
Okay.
Before he ultimately loses it, But yeah, starts fire, loses it somehow. It's a good question. Is how did that happen? Writing yourself into holes.
It's okay. Well, I'm just gonna start on some of the stuff that you said. So based on this, I'm gonna let me bring out my guides again. Make my life easier. Sorry, or is it view extras? So I think for the first panel, I'm gonna go about 2.5 inches or so. Because I want to do an establishing shot of him on the cliff. And then we can get into kind of like, I don't know, maybe around there. We can kind of zoom in on him. I don't know how many panels I'll have there. I'm just going to break this up into 4s and just see what I need to do. So I'm just going to use, panels. My brush, what size am I at? 7. That should be fine. So I'm going to break the page up like this. And if I have to change it, I will. It's not a big deal. Okay, so I got them set up. So the first panel will be an establishing shot. And when I draw, I tend to draw slant and when I hold my paper. So this is one of the great features about Photoshop that I love is that I can angle my paper and rotate it into any. It helps me when I ink more than anything. But
I've never. I mean, I do a lot by hand, but I've never done that. Really.
Yeah. No. So I can make it feel like I'm actually working on regular paper here. So he's on a cliff, you said, right?
Great. Yep. He's on a cliff, trying to get warm. Wind's blowing, I'd say he's kind of hunched over.
Maybe a kind of a branch or something coming off. So I'm not liking this camera angle already. Hold on. This happens to me quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I understand. I this is the best spot in my apartment, but I hate that this window is back here. The backlighting is terrible, and when Cirilla, the cat, wants to get up on that windowsill, it's,
Yeah.
I hate that window. Let's see.
Okay, I think what I want to do is set this up as kind of a silhouette almost in the beginning.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So maybe if I change the camera angle to, like, it's going to have to be kind of profile-ish, right? To be able to tell a silhouette.
Yeah, usually.
So I'll come in. Hold on. Why don't I just put it in the corner here? This will probably be better. And the silhouette will also be of the mountain too. So his arms would be crossed, which may not make such a good silhouette. We'll see here. Give him that heavy brow. Messy hair. Let's see. How would this look silhouetted? And maybe we got some kind of tree over here growing. I think I'm going to make him smaller too. I think it would be easier. This is why I love working digital, by the way. It makes my life cancel. It makes my life so much easier. So brush.
Okay.
And then maybe I'll put some leaves or something here, and we can have them kind of blowing in the wind.
Right.
Dust. Maybe some clouds down here so we know that he's really high up. Maybe I'll throw a couple of birds in the sky over here.
Actually, I think I'm going to go a completely different direction now.
Okay. Are you
No. I mean, not with the ending. But yeah,
okay.
I pretty much I'm working at it. So I got something for you.
Okay. Brush. I want to do some mountains over here. Maybe I'll have some kind of volcano towards the center here with the smoking coming out. And those clouds are just suggestions. I wouldn't draw clouds like this for this style. Yeah, you really can't tell what he is. He might not have to be silhouetted. But if I silhouette this, make this darker, and let's bring him.
off the cuff stories.
Okay. So it's windy, and then you said, "Ooh, where's that line from?" Let me erase that. That's probably up here.
I got it. How do you spell that? You're getting 2 characters now.
Okay.
It's going to be him and a little pterodactyl sidekick.
Okay.
Yeah. They can kind of be, I don't know, fitting this on 1 page. Maybe it'd have to be 2.
It's okay. For now, I'll do, just for the stream, we'll do what we can for 1 page or as long as we can.
Right. So I got your whole thing. Okay. I don't know if you want the whole story going here.
Well, give me the whole story, yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be him and the pterodactyl looking, they're cold. They're, obviously. Yeah. See, I want to do like panel descriptions. I'm supposed to see that. Yeah. They're cold. I mean, they it's obvious that they know each other. Maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, they're there on the cliff together, both cold. The caveman, I guess, is the main character. So he's kind of looking around. There's like nothing there. He does get a little frustrated, throw a rock. It hits another one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Spark, kicks up. So he gets an idea. Which, of course, the pterodactyl doesn't know what he's going to do. So he starts hitting the rocks together. They start, creating a little spark. Eventually, some of those leaves that you got in there, right? Like some of them on the ground catch, right? So he's happy. He's dancing. The pterodactyl's coming closer. They're both really happy about the fire. It's warm, and starts catching all the leaves. Eventually hits that tree over there. The whole thing starts really like lighting up pretty high, and then the two are kind of horrified and afraid for their lives. So pterodactyl and him fly off the cliff together and get away from it. Yeah, that's okay. What I got for you.
Okay, so it's interesting. So this will be that. I don't like the way the chattering teeth look, but it's fine for now.
It's all right.
And how'd I have him in the first? So his arms are down. He's kind of holding himself here. He's a little, and let's give him some hair. Bring this arm in. So that arm's coming this way. Okay. I think like that would be better. All right. Sometimes, not that I forget to draw the neck, but it doesn't look right the way I drew it without seeing some of it. So, okay. So maybe we won't even see this arm here. Okay, so we got this here. Here he is, and then you said he picks up a rock, right? He's looking around.
Yeah, he's looking around and he gets frustrated. He picks up a rock and kind of, just throws it to the side, because there's nothing there to keep him warm,
Yeah. So what I'll do...
I don't want to give too much input because from what I understand, the artists, but, he wouldn't be like a hard toss. It's just kind of like skipping a rock across a pond kind of throw,
Yeah, I forgot his legs are up here.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I'm just going to make him look like he's looking in one direction here. I'll come back and add in the the background in a moment. Whoops. And I'm gonna bring this down. And what I'm doing right now, and the way I'm changing all this stuff, this is just kind of reference for me for when I actually go in and actually do the pencils. So right now I'm doing some kind of breakdowns for myself.
Right.
So I'm going to change his angle a bit, I think. Or no, you know what? Undo that. Whoops.
Actually, it's funny seeing you do this. I'm pretty sure that's what Jackie does with her art. Because when she sent me pages for Chadiana, it was kind of actually they were pretty fleshed out, but she did roughs directly on the page and then did the art over the top of it.
That's exactly how I work when I'm doing digital. I tend to. Whoa, that's too big. When I'm drawing for myself, I tend to work. Well, I tend to work both ways, but I also really like to do a lot on. I like to do a lot on paper, and then I'll airdrop it to myself, and I'll just put it in and use it as a reference.
Right.
Hey, Mike Wilkie's joining us. Hey, Mike, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm seeing private. Oh, here we go.
Go.
Yeah, I just had the comments on the private chat.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mike.
Yeah, so he's going to be looking.
Welcome to the show.
He'll be looking out over that. Well, actually, that one we won't really see. We'll see his head mostly, so that's the back, and he'll be looking out like that over here. All right. And so as he looks out this way, he doesn't really see anything, but I am going to move him just a bit.
Yeah.
Just closer to over here so that I can draw out more of the distance, or maybe I'll make them smaller. Whoops. I usually draw everything on separate layers.
Oh, yeah.
So,
makes sense.
Why isn't it letting me?
I don't think you have a layer selected right now.
Oh, that's what it is, yeah. It must have fallen off.
Yeah, it happened. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I one of the things I do is I also teach graphic design, and every once in a while a kid will be like, I don't even know how this happened, and I don't know either, but there you are.
Yeah, I do the same thing all the time. Yeah. And I taught at a high school for about a year, but I taught graphic design and all these other animation and all this stuff on a college at one school specifically for over 16 years. Mm-hmm. And then I was guest speaker. I've done other things. I still do it in other places. And it's weird. A student asks me a question. I'm like, yeah, it's usually the obvious answer. And when I'm working, I'm like, why isn't it working? I don't pay attention to the obvious answers. I tell the students to look at. So there he is looking at the tree.
Right. And it's a funny thing as you're doing this too. I give, even for myself when I'm writing a script, it's like I give myself so much more guidance. This is so weird. I feel like I'm not doing the writer's job. I don't know.
I think you are. It's nothing.
But I've heard so many different things about this process too, which is that, Stan Lee or whoever would just like give kind of a synopsis and the artist would really fill in.
Yeah.
All of the, like it would just be like fight sequence or whatever, but it wouldn't be like the artist would have to choreograph that whole thing. But then I've also heard, when artists would turn in work or they were working on stuff, Stan Lee would get on a table and show people if you're going to have a guy get punched, he's not just going to turn his head. He's like his whole body is going to,
Yeah.
I heard he was very animated when
Yeah.
describing how some of the art should look too. So
Yeah, no, I've heard a lot of different stories about it. Hold on. So now you said he's going to toss a rock,
yeah.
and you know what? I'm going to go back to the first panel because you said he's going to meet a pterodactyl, right?
Well, yeah, they're kind of sitting there together, you know.
Oh, you didn't. Oh, I didn't know they were sitting there already.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was going to have
sorry.
him. I was going to have him fly in.
Oh, you could do. I mean, you know, I guess I wasn't specific enough, and that's kind of the magic of this thing, you know.
So I'm going to put the pterodactyl out here, and it's not a
Oh,
big one.
if you're going to have him fly in, do that. You know, I'm interested to, you know, I would wonder how this went, you know. So strange to me.
And I made sure to add some rocks in one of the pictures over here. I started drawing some rocks.
Yes, important storytelling point, everyone. If the gun's going to go off in the third act, you have to show it in the first.
So I'll put some pebbles down here. Maybe a kind of a big thing.
Yeah. It doesn't, you know, and it's a funny thing to talk about somebody else who's so meticulous about it. But like it's one of the things that if you've never read like an Alan Moore comic, I mean, please do, anybody that's listening to this, because like Alan Moore, he will set stuff up so early. And you know, the thing is he'll just put it as, I mean, well, he's very particular in what he tells his artists to do, from what I understand, and even reading some of his scripts. But when I say like the gun goes off in the third act, you got to show it in the first. It doesn't even have to be the most prominent thing in a panel. The reader should be able to see it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, he uses a lot of subtle clues too, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh,
as
yeah.
Mike's drawing out these rocks, just having rocks there is enough to establish that there are rocks there. You don't have to like have a panel of a rock. Although you could do that too, you know, just for anyone watching, you know.
All right, so I'll have him kind of looking down. Or actually, you know what? I think I'm going to have him have his hand reach down for one of the rocks. And I can't forget that I have the wind still blowing here. So as he picks up the rock, he's going to look at it. Actually, I think I got it. I'm going to put him kind of over here, still kind of hunched over, but his arms he's leaning back a little bit so that he can kind of throw it. So that's not a good positioning. Let's see here. So what
I wonder how that went too, because you know I've heard stories where you know Stan Lee would give Jack Kirby a script and he'd get like a 22 page comic done in like a weekend, you know.
Well, the one thing about Jack that I mean, I think everyone knows, he was just super fast. He worked. He had, you know, everyone talks about the Kirby style,
Yeah.
and that was a shorthand for him.
Yeah. Well, I think it has to be. I mean, it's a big reason why for years, once I came to appreciate Mike Mignola's work, why I like it so much. I mean, there is especially if you're going to be pumping out work regularly in comics, you have to, as an artist, understand and proficiently be able to, what's the word I'm looking for? But yeah, I mean, like you're saying, kind of have a shorthand, be able to minimalize. Yeah.
Yeah.
You really have to be able to do a lot with a little.
So he's still hunched over here, and his arm. I'm sorry. The problem is I'm having problems deciding how I want this panel to look, and
I want it. You know, I think we both maybe underestimated that it doesn't take an hour to do this.
Oh, well, don't worry about that.
I mean, I've heard of the 24-hour comic challenge, but not the hour comic challenge.
I'm going to just put the rock like this for now, and
look, I'm writing a story about a caveman that accidentally starts a fire. I mean, it's originality is not at its finest right now, so you do the best job you can.
I have this
full support. Yeah, no.
Okay, so in this panel, I'm going to see his eyes really. Actually, hold on. I want to cut this panel in half. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to have his eyes looking ready to hit, like this. And then his eyes are going to open up a little wider. So I think I might be rewriting a little bit of what you said, but
that's okay. As far as I know, that's how it would go too. Like they would get a synopsis, but there would be, and that's where, from what I understand, part of the issue was with how much of it was Stan Lee's stuff and how much of it was Jack Kirby's, because so much of what Jack Kirby or the artists were doing was kind of like writing or rewriting some of the action sequences,
And what I'm doing now is you're going to see, I got to figure out how to make him look like he's shivering and that he's cold, but he's realizing that he's cold too.
Right.
And he's just going to, we'll do this. I know this is a messy page, but I'm trying to get this together in one page.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to cut from here. He's just going to toss the rock, and I'll do this kind of in a silhouette.
Yep.
Right here. And he just kind of lets the rock go. And over here, we'll see the pterodactyl too. All right. And then we come down into here, and the rock, they hit and and they spark. And, I'll even do a little flame. And, what I think, you're right, this might have to be 2 pages.
Well, I mean, you could just have the whole thing light up, and you don't have the punchline of it getting out of control.
Yeah.
I could just have a happy, quick wrap up too.
Yeah. I'll give his eyes wide again here. We'll do a little closer up on his face, and because what I was thinking is over the next panel or 2 here, I could break it up, and then the final page would be a pinup of them together, kind of staying by the fire.
Right. Yeah, that's a cool. Could you just scroll up a second to the top panel?
Yep.
See, I'm not sure how much input I should give. Maybe. Well,
if there's any dialogue or sound effects or anything, you could tell me, add more stuff.
Right. No, I was just wondering if there was a way to combine the first two panels so that you had more room.
I mean, not on this one. I'd have to remodify everything. But if I was to go back and redo this, I would probably rotate the first panel,
Mm-hmm.
and set this one up as an inset image.
Right.
Which, hold on. So if I was to do that, they're drawn on separate layers. I'm just going to make my life easier and merge them. Excuse me. So
this is what Stan and Jack could not do because they did not have Photoshop.
So if I go to where's it? Transform, flip horizontal, Control D, and then this one here.
Right. I gotcha.
Copy. Well, I'll cut it and then I'll paste it in. And
yeah, I'm just wondering how.
Where's it? I just got to grab him, and let me scale that down. And I don't know if he should look in that. I'll probably put him over here. And
I'm just trying to give you a little bit more room in case you want to fit that extra panel.
Yeah. And then for now, whoops. And for now, I'll just add a stroke around it. I don't care about the color. Whoop, that's too much. Just one. I didn't want that, so cancel that out. I'll just draw a box around it.
Well, it's funny, this is part of how I've heard it went too, is there is just this kind of back and forth collaboration. I don't know how much Stan Lee was having them change panels, maybe occasionally, but I would imagine they were trying to get these books out so quick they didn't have time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me just let's just do this now. Panels are I'm on the wrong layer. Okay. Move that over here. I'm gonna bring marquee tool. I'll bring this panel up here. And that could go right into there. Then these will move over. Control. Let's take that, bring that over. Whoops. Hit the caps lock key, not the shift key. These now.
You messed up your whole layout. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Listen, whatever we can do to make a better comic, right?
Yeah.
So I know this is small, but these now would be drawn large.
Yeah.
And I'll just move that one up here. That'll be drawn large as well. And I can get more expression in that idea of facial features, wrinkles, things like that. So it could add a little bit more expression to the character.
Right.
And then let's see, move this up. Come on, H. Let's move that up. I'm not going to worry about that. Let's erase here for now. And M. Oh, you know what? I'll just bring. Yeah, no, that's good. I'll just leave those there for here. And then the next thing I wanted to do was I wanted to create. What was I going to do? Him like hitting the. Or I guess I could just come in with the fire. But so let me do it that way. Let me do this. Come in. And this way we can keep it all one piece, right?
Yeah.
And Why isn't it? Oh, it took the wrong key command. Sorry. Okay, and then in this panel here, he is smacking the, he's hitting the rocks together.
Mm-hmm.
I did want another like eye expression, like he's like, "Ooh." Actually, let's do that. Let's not worry. This way, we'll know it already hit him. So we'll have his expression like, and I know he looks sad. We got to make him look happy. Kind of like that, maybe. All right, and his unibrow there with his hair. And then we can end it with, here's the fire. And he's hunched over still, but now his hands are, he's feeling it. And there is that, while pterodactyl is here.
Difference of our personalities are showing too.
Yeah. What do you mean?
No, I had such a it's either a depressing ending with me or like something that just goes out of control. And I imagined you wanted a happier ending, which is,
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, if you had a sadder ending, you could.
No. I would no. I'm okay with it. I just think it's always interesting, with the way different storytellers' minds work with things. Yeah. No, it's not a complete like.
Well, did you want? I forgot. Did you say you wanted the tree to be set on fire, or?
Yeah, I did, but go with your, because like this is part of what I believe it was sort of like, there was a lot of artistic freedom, and I think that had a lot to do with the fact that how many books was Stan Lee writing, and then how many artists were working on multiple books, and
yeah,
it just had to go with it,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could change the ending. I just, I'll be honest, I forgot about the fire tree until you mentioned you had a more depressing.
Well, not depressing. It was more like, the whole thing goes out of control. And then, they kind of, what winds up being their savior winds up nearly killing them. So they have to get away from it. No, but yeah, I like the happy ending too. I gotta get out of my comfort zone.
Let me ask you. So now,
right,
being the writer,
right.
What would you add anything in dialogue, or is this more silent and it's just sound effects that I would add for it?
Well, that's the hard thing with me. From a writer's perspective, the shorter it is, the less dialogue I usually have.
Mm-hmm. I mean, let me tell you, this does work.
Yeah.
As a single panel, not single panel, a single page silent, comic. It actually kind of, when I was drawing this, I know it's nowhere in the style, but I was thinking like, how would Will Eisner attack this?
Right. Well, here's a funny thing about that. I am a big, I love silent comics. There's been some that I've written myself, and I mean, for anybody watching this that is here, of course, for the storytelling stuff, you should be able to tell a story that people get without any of the dialogue. I mean, you may not get all the nitty gritty details and some of the more complex stuff, but it should be, your actions should always be readable.
Mm-hmm.
it's a funny thing, right? Because I know you like a lot of like the Disney stuff and stuff and
Yeah.
such. My sister-in-law is really into them, and I was just talking to my parents about this. Like, I mean, him and her and my brother, they have two kids, so they last couple times I saw them because I'm only seeing family right now in the pandemic. Um, we sat down and watched a Disney movie, but the kids are making a lot of noise, so I couldn't always hear the dialogue. But
Mhm.
Disney does a fantastic job because you can follow the story without hearing any dialogue whatsoever. You can get the whole thing. We watched Princess and the Frog one time, and the other one was oh, why am I forgetting this now? Tangled. I had never seen
Oh,
either. Yeah, and I
both
was
good
able
films.
to. Yeah, and I was able to follow the whole thing. You know, I understand those are simpler stories, but I think I remember you talking about this on your storytelling thing too. So just kind of one of the previous Saturdays, yeah, just trying to kind of reiterate that you should always be trying to tell stories that are clear. You know,
Yeah.
um, you can add in the complex details, but yeah, they should work as silent comics.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, and then of course the dialogue just helps it. Yeah, but that the smaller my stories get, the less dialogue I usually have. I guess um, we could get in there with sound effects, like the whoosh, and for the
Hmm.
you have your wind going, uh, the crack and spark for the rock.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the only thing. Sound effects I've gotten better at writing.
Hmm.
Um, in the beginning, I used to get really creative, but I've noticed that the sound effects that come across better when you're reading them are the ones that are pretty. Um, they're not too. I don't want to say creative, but it's kind of like using the. Um, using he said, she said when you're writing dialogue, like the reader registers it but doesn't like fixate on it.
Yeah.
And I think like the simpler sound effects do read better. Like you hear the sound better,
Hmm.
because the reader doesn't have to like try to work out what that is supposed to sound like. But yeah,
Yeah.
I guess you can have the caveman have a frustrated, uh, you know, exclamation like "garn" or something like that. I didn't want to do like "damn," but I was thinking like "garn" or "gorn" or I don't know, something caveman-y.
Okay. So let me just. So you're thinking GARN is what you're thinking?
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah,
All right. All right. I'm just writing that down as a little note to myself because what I'm going to do is I'm working on a freelance project this weekend. I'm hoping to finish it completely today, but I'm probably gonna have to do some tomorrow. And I think sometime this week I'm gonna turn this into an actual page.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Um,
one more piece.
yeah,
So I would have the crack. I would have the spark for the spark.
yeah.
I would give him a little chuckle during the happy part, like an exclamation, kind of like a haha, kind of
I'll
just
just make a note of haha, but
yeah. Just I mean, there's not going to be a lot of dialogue, but I'm trying to give you a little something just
yeah.
to
No, no, no. That's fine. You
yeah,
know, and I'll put the uh this probably will go up here.
right,
And I don't think, and I want to change this panel. I have this idea of a different look.
right,
I need to reference something. I just didn't want to go looking for reference to save time. But and I'm looking at myself, and I was looking at myself on the screen while I'm doing this, and I know how my body would be turned. The body's not turned properly in here. The I still kind of want him hunched over, like kind of not hunched over, but still like squatting,
right.
you
No,
know.
I got you.
So I want to get this. So these are more notes for me at the moment, but
Right.
this is literally a story. If I had nothing to do today, I could have this done completely, colored, everything, probably by 6 o'clock tonight.
Oh, that's yeah.
it's it's something that I'm eager to get done now. It's a when I'm done with the freelance project, this before I started any of my actual personal comics, my Dax Photon or anything else that I'm working on.
Right.
I really want to just I think draw this out. I actually have a Star Wars comic I wrote as a joke. I do a lot of humor stuff, so I wrote this. I'm not going to spoil the joke, but it's a Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan gag, and it's a comic page, and I think it's hysterical, and I just haven't had a chance to sit and actually draw it out. So I think I might do that. I think that could be fun to do with this, and maybe that'll be this week's project for me is to do those two comics.
Right.
And then I can start on my other stuff. This is great, though. I think together we came up with something good. You had a good idea. I didn't realize I changed the ending until you mentioned.
It's okay because again, I think that kind of thing would happen a lot. Like I think it was more like the artist would kind of get these guidelines, but then they would change things.
Basically,
it wouldn't follow it exactly. As long as they told a cohesive story beginning to end in 22 pages, and then they could still follow up with something the next month. I think that was like the whole goal.
Yeah,
just to keep it going. I mean, because a lot of the characters were built on like a premise.
Yeah,
and then. Again, as I understand it as best I can, because I wasn't there, but yeah, like Spider-Man, I know, Stan Lee, it was like, he wanted to do like a younger kid becoming a superhero and having that very, oh yeah, you know your stuff.
I pulled these out before.
Right.
Because I thought I was going to talk a little bit more and show stuff, but when I was a kid, no, it's okay. It's not like you talk too much type of thing. Like I thought I was going to segue into showing some of these.
Well, I might have talked too much.
No, it's okay. I love chatting with you, man. So when I was a kid, if you guys know in the comic world, I will just show all the ones I got here. I got all these, I think, when I was in 10th grade. I think I bought one myself outside of that. So if you guys know who what's it called? Joe Orlando was. He passed away years ago. Actually, I think he passed away while I was in high school. I don't remember. He worked for DC. He did a lot of stuff. I remember he drew, I don't think the first issue of Daredevil. I don't remember what it was. He did a lot of stuff. He was an editor there. He did a lot of things. He lived in the same town as I did. I went to high school with his son. Oh, and Joe would get, I guess, a bunch of these. And I guess because he worked on stuff, whatever the reason was, they always had some home. So his son sold me these for $5 a pop. So I'm like, am I going to say no? I think I had to pay for the Spider-Man one because that is in a different type of wrapper.
Right.
I think I bought this one at a show for like $15, but all the others I bought off Joe Orlando's son in high school. And wow. I paid $5 a pop for them, and I'm like, when you look at the price on them, are they on here? What was it? These were $30 when they came out. This particular X-Men one, and that's how I read all these old comics and got into the old heroes and really learned about Kirby and Lee and Ditko and all these other artists. There's one here this one here, the Captain America, Iron Man, Captain America book. I think this is all Captain America, though. Yeah, and I just loved looking at this one here. So I haven't pulled them out in years. They just literally sit on my bookshelf. Had to clean off some dust from them.
Well, I mean, I haven't read a lot of the really old stuff. The only thing that I do know, and I think it's probably why a lot of comics got such a bad reputation for having poor writing is because a lot of the and I think this goes to the storytelling, right? So I mean, I think you did a much better job, so to speak, because a lot of them were rushing through. And from what I understand, sometimes the going to what we were talking about or what I was mentioning, the action didn't match the original story enough, or it didn't clearly tell the story enough that so much exposition was given in the dialogue. And it was just like a lot of times it was, from what I've seen, very on the nose and very like just kind of like too much information, like talking about character motivations and everything just like through the dialogue. So yeah, but I think a lot of that sort of thing would happen too, from what I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, and I gotta say, what we did, we're an hour and like 17 minutes in on
Right.
this stream today, but we didn't start working till about 25 minutes in, and we stopped maybe about 10 minutes ago. So we literally put in about 40 minutes of work,
right,
between the both of us.
Right, which is much shorter time than I usually even spend plotting out a story.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Yeah, it's still. I mean, for the time put in, it's not too bad.
I think it's a pretty decent story. It has a nice, I don't know. I just find it nice, and at the end, it's a very and again, sorry I changed the ending, but it's a little kind of heartwarming ending here, where you got these characters who should be enemies, and he should be killing this thing, and the pterodactyl should be killing him. They're just hanging out together. It reminds me of a story that I wanted to animate that I came up with. About an old man who's really hungry and like close to death because he hasn't eaten in so long. And it does have a happy ending in there. But the whole thing, until you get to that happy ending, is kind of, depressing, and it's and you know what, I'll tell you off the air about it.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's another thing too, and I always like I like the rule of threes on a build, and there's not enough in one page to do it. But another thing is just a storytelling technique. If you're going to have a happy ending, it's always good to have a little failure, a little depression, or something unfortunate building it up. And bad endings, and it's not a hard rule, right? But it's usually good to kind of flip it, so have things working out really good, and then a failure at the end, or
No, I agree. It's kind of how I write. I tend to for myself be a happy ending kind of guy. I always, like I said, I write a lot of kid friendly, family friendly stuff. So I like to have something. I like to end on a happy note, but getting there doesn't mean the whole thing has to be constantly happy.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, going back to the Disney movies, right? I mean, there are some dark moments in those.
Oh,
I mean,
totally.
They always turn out fine in the end, but yeah, they don't shy away from darker themes or heavier themes on the way.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to wrap up for today. I want to thank you again for coming on. We got, you can find everything on darkfirepress.com. Does that have access to your regular site, the JM DeSantis, or should I?
Yeah, no, it does, because there's a creators section, and you can find me under creators, and then that links to my site. Actually, you can find all the creators. So if you want to follow anybody else from Darkfire Press, they are also linked under the creators page. So you want to check out my artists for Chadiana, they're there. Luis is there, George, Anabal. So it's a one-stop shop for everything right there. Darkfire Press.
Thanks. And And I want to thank you for joining me. Can you hang out backstage for a few minutes after this?
Yeah,
or?
of course.
All
That's
right,
easy.
cool.
I'm gonna go get more coffee when you send me back.
You go do that. Thanks again for coming on. I had a lot of fun. I thought we came up with something good.
Yeah,
So for the time we worked on.
yeah. I'm like all artists. I'm such a self critic. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking like it should have been a better story.
Oh, I'm happy with it, and I
I'm
will draw this out at some point. Hopefully,
I do want to sit like I want to see how I want to see what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I am an artist as well, I'm always impressed and happy when I see somebody else's take on what I do on like a story that I write, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I want to see how this turns out. I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Well, hopefully by the end of next week we will have this.
Yes.
So thanks again for coming on, everyone. Darkfirepress.com, and I'll see you in a few. All right.
All right. Cool.
Thanks. All right, guys. Thanks again for tuning in and hanging out today. I had a lot of fun today with JM. You know, whenever we get together, we end up sidetracking conversation, which is okay, and it happens. I hope you guys enjoyed today. I hope you guys learned about the Marvel method. I'm as you guys know, I'm more of a DC guy, but I grew up on a lot of Marvel. Love it and love the characters. I just thought it was a lot of fun today, and I never really worked this way with another writer, so I thought it was fun and interesting, especially someone who I've never worked with before. So you guys, this Tuesday on Getting Toon at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, I have John Celestri, who's an independent, who's a comic artist. He's an animator. He worked on he worked on a lot of stuff. Don Bluth stuff. He worked on He-Man. He worked on what is it? He was the animator on Boba Fett for the the 77 Star Wars holiday show. So tune in for that. And next week, because I skipped the comic review this week, next week I'll spend the whole show reviewing comics and talking about web comics that you guys should be checking out. So thanks again for hanging out with me. I'll see you guys later. Bye.